I need from you people that your mics should be on mute. If you have any questions, just type it up in the chat box. I have taught so many participants, so now I have an idea of what doubt you people will be having. So don't worry, I'll cover that point. But still, if I forget, just type it up in the chat box. All right. So now moving forward, the first thing that we need to start our resin art piece is a base on which we can do the work. So here I'll be taking a MDF board piece. Okay, this is MDF. Now you can use different bases. So what are the different options? The options are glass, ceramic tiles, metal plate, acrylic board or acrylic sheet, even PVC, as well as the canvas board. This all are the options that you can use if you don't have canvas board. You cannot use paper, you cannot use cloth because it will tear off. Fine. You can even use silicone mold, but I do not suggest people to try the beach theme, at the very first beginning in the molds, because you will not understand the flow of the shades and you will just mess up everything. Fine. So this is about the base. Moving forward, the second most important thing that we need is resin. Ziania, I just told about the bases that you can use. So it's MDF, PVC board, plywood, acrylic sheet, glass, ceramic, as well as canvas board. Okay. Now, when you go in the market to buy the resin, you will not get it as a single product like a resin. You always get it as a combo of resin and hardener. To give you a very simple example, we use MSIL in our daily life for waterproofing. So you have seen MSIL has two packs. So one is resin and the other is hardener. You have to mix it in 1:1 proportion, equal proportion, and then you can use it for waterproofing. Okay, so that is also resin and hardener, but that is in solid form. The resin that we will be using is in liquid form, and it comes in same two proportion resin and hardener, which you will have to mix it up, and then you will be getting a desired mixture. Fine. Now there must be some things that you need to check when you buy your resin. Okay, so here you see the transparency is there. Okay, you can see me through it, not completely, but still it is transparent enough. So in order to have such transparency in your piece, it is very important that you go for casting or coating resin. Okay, if you do not take casting coating resin, your piece will turn yellow in few months and the things will become hazy, whatever you have placed inside it. So it's very important to go for casting and coating resin. Then there are few instructions written casting and coating. It will be written on the bottle itself. Don't worry. Okay. Now, when you buy, you will be having different instructions written on the bottle. Fine. So what are that instructions? Ziania, it's not possible to type up in the chat box. Just listen carefully. I'm going slowly. Okay. So when you get the bottle, see, the material can be easily available from Amazon, Flipkart, if you search on Instagram, everywhere. So from where to get is not important. What all things you need to check when you buy, that is more important right now. Okay, so just listen carefully. Now when you see the few instructions, I'll just explain what each instruction means. The first instruction says the ratio in which you will have to mix your resin and hardener. Okay, so here the ratio is 2:1. That means I'll have to mix 2 parts of my resin to 1 part of my hardener. 2:1 means resin is to hardener. Okay, there will be companies which will have the ratio of 3:1. That will mean 3 parts resin and 1 part hardener. Even there are companies which have 1:1 ratio, which has 1 part resin and 1 part hardener. Each has its own purpose. That we will be discussing in the further session. Okay, so right now for today's project, I will be using 2:1 ratio resin. Okay, and the second point it says in the instruction is the amount of minute, like how much time you need to mix your resin. For today's project, yes, as someone is asking, I'm using E4X company. Okay, I use different company resins. I use Chemixol, I use Fortune Cami, I use Jags. There are so many companies. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. It depends on the product or the project that you are taking. So company is not that important right now to be focused on. Understand the points. So my bottle says that once I take my resin and hardener, I will have to mix it up for 3 to 5 minutes. Fine. So I will be mixing it. I'll be doing it practically, but I'm just explaining you because this will be very helpful when you start your practical things. So you need to mix it for 3 to 5 minutes. And once the liquid turns clear again, then you can pour it up. The third thing which may or may not be there on the bottle is the pot life. Now, what do you mean by pot life? So what happens when you mix your resin and hardener? It is in liquid form and it will remain in that liquid form for a certain time. After that, it will start curing and it will become hard. Okay, so that the resin in that liquid form, that time is known as the pot life, in which you can create anything with your resin and you can play or add anything to it. That is also known as the workable time or the pot life of your resin. So talking about my resin, the pot life is 25 minutes. Okay, so that means once I mix my resin and hardener, I will have only 25 minutes to create whatever I want. After that, my resin will become hard and I'll not be able to manipulate anything inside it. Okay. Now comes the curing point. So the curing point is the point, or curing time is the time after which you can functionally use your piece. If you have made a tray, you can function like use it to serve. It will no more be sticky because we poured liquid. Okay, so it will be no more sticky after the curing time. So for my resin, the pot life is 25 minutes and curing time is 24 hours. Okay, so once I make my piece today, it takes 24 hours to dry out completely and get turned into a super solid piece. That is known as the curing time. So what happens, when I take, for example, today, right now, I am having a small piece. So 25 minutes will be enough for me to finish up this project. But when I am working with a big project like 4 feet, 5 feet, 25 minutes will not be enough for me. Yes, it includes the mix. Once you add your resin and hardener, the pot life starts. Okay, so when I'm working with bigger projects, 25 minutes will not be enough for me. So that time I will be selecting the resin which has pot life of 45 to 60 minutes so that I have enough time to work with my resin and decide what to do where. So that's the reason I told I select different resin depending on the project. Fine. I will be doing practical, but it is very, very important to understand the theory part, because when I do the practical, you will be like, ye kyun dala? It will be like YouTube channel just doing and over. Okay. I don't want that thing. So that's the reason I'm explaining the theory part a bit. All right. So first we discussed about the base. Second, we discussed about the resin. Third thing that we need is a blowtorch. Okay, this is a blowtorch and it has a button here which you press, a flame comes out. So why we need it? Basically, when you mix your resin and hardener, air gets trapped and there will be air bubbles in it. So I'll show you one piece to just explain. Okay, you see this piece here? It is super glossy because I removed the air bubbles. And here you see the small pits because I didn't remove the air bubbles here. So in order to have a super smooth surface, it's very important to remove the air bubbles. All right. So for that purpose, we have this blowtorch. If you don't have blowtorch, the alternative is 99% isopropyl alcohol spray. Okay. So you can have this in liquid and then fill it up in a spray bottle. Fine. So I just discussed about base, resin and hardener, blowtorch or isopropyl alcohol spray. Now you see my pieces, they have colors, right? They have different shades for water and all. So there has to be something that can be added to resin to color it up. So that is known as pigment. Now we get pigment in paste form, we get pigments in powder form, as well as we get them in liquid form, which are also known as ink or alcohol ink. All right. So depending on the requirement, you can use, basically the powder forms are in pearl shades or the metallic shades. And paste form will be like this in bottle. In the paste, like the toothpaste, it will be in paste form. And the ink form, let me just show you. Ink form will be very watery in a liquid form, like in a dropper form. All right. So these are the three possible things that can be used to color up your resin. But as a beginner, it is not at all feasible to invest in all the shades available in the market. So you need some alternative. I will have all the alternatives for you. So what you have to do is just invest in one or two pigments. So if you're creating beach theme, just buy one white pigment and one or two pigments if you want to try with that crystal geodat thing. Okay, why? Because what you can do is you can use alternatively this acrylic paints that we get in small bottles, also the Fevicryl acrylic paints, or you can say Camlin acrylic paints, whatever paints you want. But we will not be mixing the acrylic paints in the resin. Okay, because Indian brand resin, Indian brand acrylic paints, they are very liquidy and they have lot of water content. So what happens is when you add water and resin are enemies. So when you add this acrylic paints in resin, your resin will form lumps and it will get spoiled up. So you should not add acrylic paints in resin. We will be using acrylic paint to paint our base. Then we will be pouring clear resin. And then we will use only one pigment, that is white pigment, to create the waves. So in this way, you will understand how to mix the pigments also. In case you have pigments, you can do with the pigments. Fine. So I'll show you with both acrylic as well as with the, the pigments, because I'll be mixing white pigment. Am I clear till now? All right. I'll be using paste pigment. Liquid pigment I use very less, and when you use the liquid pigment, you get a translucent effect like a stained glass or the colored glass. And when you use the powdered form, which is in metallic shades, it will give you very shimmery or pearl effect. Okay. So now I will be quickly moving forward and I'll turn my camera towards the table so that I can start with the project. And for today, I will be taking, for water part, I'm taking teal blue. Okay, this is a teal blue from Fevicryl, and you can take any darker shade. I'm taking a cerulean blue shade. I'm taking turquoise blue. Okay, so teal blue and turquoise blue, these two shades are in acrylic color. And for sand, I'm taking black. Deepa, if you go for the cheapest resin, it will turn out yellow in sometimes. So when you are investing so much, take a good quality thing. Otherwise, it's of no meaning. Okay, so let me turn the camera towards the table. Quickly start with the practical thing. And I forgot to say that we will be needing small things like a cup and ice cream stick to mix the resin and hardener. And as resin is a chemical, it is very important to be on safer side. So wear gloves as well as the mask, because when you use this blowtorch, the resin may release fumes which we don't want to inhale. All right. So now I'll just turn the camera. I'll come back to your questions. Don't worry. Let me just start. And I'm just placing some bottles here so that.
Rajagna ma'am, I'm really sorry to interrupt. There were few requests in the chat box. If you could just include Hindi also, in between, that would be great. Like few people are not comfortable with English.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I missed that thing in the chat. So guys, जिनको मतलब हिंदी में चाहिए तो I'll do this. करते करते मैं आपको हिंदी में भी समझा देती हूँ कि हमें एक बेस लेना पड़ेगा. बेस के मैंने ऑप्शन बता दिए, वो तो हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में सेम ही रहेंगे. ठीक है. और रेजिन लेना है. रेजिन जब भी लेते हो तो आपको ये चीज ध्यान रखनी है कि उसको कास्टिंग कोटिंग रेजिन है और उसका पॉट लाइफ ध्यान रखना है. नाउ पॉट लाइफ क्या है? आप एक बार रेजिन और हार्डनर को मिक्स करोगे तो वो थोड़ी देर के लिए ही लिक्विड फॉर्म में रहेगा, उसके बाद वो हार्ड हो जाएगा. तो वो जो लिक्विड फॉर्म में रहता है तब तक ही हम उसके साथ काम कर सकते हैं और उसको पॉट लाइफ बोलते हैं. ठीक है. और फिर एक है क्योरिंग टाइम. वो क्योरिंग टाइम के बाद आप अपने जो भी रेजिन की चीज बनाई है आप उसको यूज कर सकते हो. जैसे ट्रे बनाई है तो उसके अंदर कुछ भी सर्व कर सकते हो. वो स्टिकी या गीला नहीं रहेगा. फाइन. तो मैंने यही चीज बताई और ब्लोटॉर्च बताया जिससे आगे से फायर निकलती है, जिससे हम लोग एयर बबल्स को फोड़ सकते हैं. अगर आपके पास ब्लोटॉर्च नहीं है तो आप आइसोप्रोपाइल अल्कोहल स्प्रे या फिर उसको रबिंग अल्कोहल स्प्रे भी बोलते हैं, वो आप ले सकते हो, जो कोई भी मेडिकल शॉप में इजीली मिल जाएगा. फाइन. और मैंने ये बोला कि जो भी हम कलर्स ऐड करते हैं जिससे रेजिन को कलर कर सके उसको पिगमेंट्स बोलते हैं. पर अगर आप अभी स्टार्ट कर रहे हो रेजिन आर्ट तो फिर पिगमेंट्स नहीं यूज करें. एक या दो ही पिगमेंट में इन्वेस्ट करें. बाकी कलर्स के लिए आप एक्रेलिक कलर्स यूज करो और वो एक्रेलिक कलर्स आप बेस के ऊपर करो, रेजिन में नहीं ऐड करेंगे. आप क्यों नहीं ऐड करेंगे? क्योंकि जो एक्रेलिक कलर्स इंडियन ब्रांड के होते हैं उसमें पानी का कंटेंट बहुत ज्यादा रहता है. सो अगर आप उसको रेजिन के अंदर ऐड करोगे आपका रेजिन पूरा लम्प्स मतलब गड्ढे बना लेगा और वो बिगड़ जाएगा. सो हम लोग पहले बेस को पेंट करेंगे, उसके ऊपर क्लियर रेजिन और हार्डनर का मिक्सचर डालेंगे और फिर सिर्फ एक ही पिगमेंट यूज करेंगे, व्हाइट पिगमेंट, वेव्स क्रिएट करने के लिए. ऑलराइट
Rajagna ma'am, I am again very sorry to interrupt. Guys, don't worry. She is just repeating whatever she was explaining in English for so long. Okay. She has not taught anything in English, something new. It's just that she was repeating whatever she taught in English again in Hindi for the ones who didn't understand. So now she's going to begin. Okay, I can see a lot of English in the chat box. Don't worry. She will take this up in English. Don't worry. Okay. She was just repeating the old thing.
I'll be sure. I'll make sure now I repeat the things in both the language, but I just wanted to repeat whatever I told in English. Okay. So now as I started, I have used the black acrylic color. Okay. To paint my sand part. मैंने black acrylic color use किया है sand part को color करने के लिए. Now, when we start with the water part, you have to be very careful that when you paint water, the lighter shade is near the sand part or the shore and the darker part is away, because as water gets deeper, it will get darker. जब भी आप पेंट करते हो पानी वाला पोर्शन तो आपको एक चीज ध्यान रखनी है कि सैंड या तो शोर के पास आप लाइट शेड करो और दूर थोड़ा डार्क शेड करो, क्योंकि जैसे जैसे पानी रेत से दूर जाता है वो थोड़ा डीप होता है, इसलिए वो डार्क दिखता है. फाइन. सो आई एम टेकिंग माय टील ब्लू. मैं अभी मेरा टील ब्लू ले रही हूँ. एंड व्हेनेवर यू पेंट यू नीड टू गो फ्रॉम लेफ्ट टू राइट. हमेशा पेंट करो तो लेफ्ट टू राइट में पेंट करो, बीच में कहीं भी रुक रुक के पेंट नहीं करना. डू नॉट पेंट इन ब्रोकन स्ट्रोक्स. नाउ यू हैव टू डिसाइड हाउ मच पार्ट you want as your teal. अब आपको डिसाइड करना है कि आपको कितना पानी लाइट शेड में चाहिए और कितना पानी डार्क शेड में चाहिए. So I will paint my water in teal shade till here. मैं मेरा पानी teal shade में यहाँ तक paint करूंगी. Now we will be taking the second shade, that is turquoise blue, but I will not be washing my brush. अभी मैं दूसरा shade लूंगी, पर मेरा brush है उसको मैं wash नहीं करूंगी, because I want to blend the two shades. मुझे दो shades को blend करना है, इसलिए मैं इसको wash नहीं करूंगी. And I have taken very little quantity and just go over your teal. turquoise shade थोड़ा लेना है और teal के ऊपर ही करते रहना है, फिर धीरे धीरे करके ऊपर जाना है. You need to move up, then again you need to take some turquoise, थोड़ा और turquoise लेके ऊपर तक कवर करना है. You need to cover till the end. Now start from top and come till the end of water. अभी ऊपर से चालू करके पानी का end हो तब तक आपको आना है.
Ma'am, what is the base that you have taken?
Sorry?
What is the base, ma'am, that you have taken? There is a question.
It's an MDF base. MDF wooden base that I have taken. It's 4-inch in size. So if you paint in this strokes from left to right, you will be having a professional finished product. आप अगर बीच बीच में रोक रोक के पेंट करोगे तो आपको अच्छा प्रोफेशनल लुक वाला पीस नहीं मिलेगा, इसीलिए आपको अच्छे से उसको पेंट करना है लेफ्ट टू राइट कोट में. नाउ यू कैन सी डार्क शेड, लाइट शेड. ठीक है, अभी आप देख सकते हो कि डार्क टू लाइट शेड पूरा पानी जैसे डीप हो रहा है ऐसा दिख रहा है. Visible to everyone? Clear till here? Great. Now I'll just leave this to dry. मैं अभी इसको साइड में रखूंगी ड्राई होने के लिए, और जब तक ये ड्राई होता है we'll be starting with measuring the resin and hardener. अब जब तक ये ड्राई होगा हम हमारा रेजिन और हार्डनर है उसको हम लोग मेजर कर लेंगे. और जैसे मैं आपको मेरे पीसेस दिखा रही थी, where I'm showing you my pieces, you see even the back side is super finished. Okay, there are no resin drops. कहीं पे भी resin के droplets या ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. So you can achieve this when you calculate the exact amount of resin and hardener needed for your base. ये हम कैसे अचीव कर सकते हैं? जब हम exact quantity resin और hardener का मेजर करें, जिससे हमारा वेस्टेज नहीं हो और हमारा बेस है वो भी पूरा कवर हो जाए. वो कैलकुलेशन पार्ट हम लोग फर्दर क्लासेस में सीखेंगे, अभी मैं नहीं सिखा पाऊंगी बिकॉज इट नीड्स लॉट ऑफ टाइम एंड अंडरस्टैंडिंग. सो अभी मैं आपको सिर्फ बताऊंगी कि ये 4 इंच के प्रोजेक्ट के लिए हमें टोटल रेजिन और हार्डनर को मिक्स करके 10 ग्राम्स चाहिए. I'll not be able to cover up the calculation part in this session. So I'll just tell you that for this 4-inch project, we will be needing 10 grams of resin hardener mixture. Okay. So now comes the theory part. अब आपको theory part याद करना है. मैंने बोला था कि my resin is 2:1 ratio. Okay. मैंने बोला था मेरा resin 2:1 ratio है. अभी मैंने बोला कि मुझे 10 grams चाहिए. I just told that I need 10 grams. So how will the calculation go? I'll take 7 grams of my resin and half of it, that is 3.5, as my hardener. So मुझे 1:2, मतलब 1 is 3.5, उसका डबल करूंगी तो 7. So 2 part resin मिल गया, 1 part hardener मिल गया. So my ratio of 2:1 is sufficed. और मुझे चाहिए था required quantity 10 grams, तो मेरा 10.5 बन रहा है, पर मेरा 10 grams बन गया. So in this way, my both the points are covered up. Fine. So now I'll just turn the camera again. Apeksha, I'll not be able to show the calculation part here because it needs time. Okay. So as I told, we need 10 grams, total 10 grams. Vijayta, you can use any of the masking tape that's available with the carpenter, also known as paper tape, to protect the corners. But if you protect the corners, what happens, sometimes the edges will be very sharp. So I do not cover in order to have a perfect dough. All right, just give me 1 second. I'll just turn the camera and then I'll just start and show you the calculation part. Just 1 second. So I'll be using this plastic cup. All right, and this is the weighing scale that I'll be using. So I'll just wear my gloves first. Please, those who are doing along with me, make sure that you wear your gloves as well as the mask. So first I'll be taking is my part A, that is resin. This is my part A resin. So I'll be taking 7 grams. In case while calculating, if instead of 7 it goes 8, then make sure to calculate your hardener also according to that. Second thing you need is the hardener. You can just type up your questions if you have. I'll just come back to that in one, once I'm done with the this calculation. Just 1 second.
Guys, are we all enjoying the workshop? Everyone? I hope you all are getting a lot of information. Great, great. Lovely.
Sorry, as my bottle is new, it's taking time to open. Just give me 1 second. I'll just open the hardener and then I'll add it to it. Okay, so I have just taken my resin here. Now I'll be adding my hardener. So that, let me just, which brand resin you're using? I'm using Eporex company. Okay, it's Eporex. And one more thing I forgot to say is, when you buy the resin, which is for art form, it is known as epoxy resin. There are many resin which are being used even for flooring purpose and all, but the resin that we use for art form is known as epoxy resin, and it is the least toxic form of resin. It is the least toxic form of resin, so you can use it up. Only thing you need to see is that the area wherever you are working is very nicely ventilated. Otherwise, the fumes can just be there in your home itself. So keeps the windows and everything open, and then you can start working. All right, so now let me just turn the camera. No need to do it in sunlight. I have not taken, I'm just taking, I was opening the bottle. It was new, so it took time. Okay, so I have taken, my resin got 10, so I have taken 5. So total became 15, but that's okay. It's extra, so I'll use it up with some other project. So now when you see, this is a very clear liquid like water. Okay, so this is what you get when you just start with your when you take your resin and hardener, and this is when your pot life will start, because you have just added your resin and hardener. So now they will start reacting with each other, and that's when your pot life starts. Okay, so I'm just taking, you can take ice cream stick, or you can take any of the wooden stick as well. So I'm just taking that, and you need to make sure that you mix very slowly. Otherwise, I have taken 2:1 ratio. Okay, so mine was 10, it had to be 7 grams and 3.5 gram. But as my resin fell 10 grams, so I took my hardener as 5 and made it 2:1 ratio. Okay, now you need to mix very slowly and scrap the sides of your base as well as the bottom. And when you start mixing, in 1 minute itself, the liquid which was very clear will turn turbid white like this. That means the reaction has started. So now you will have to mix. Here comes theory part again. I told that the mixing has to be done for 3 to 5 minutes according to my bottle. So I'll be mixing slowly. If you mix vigorously, what will happen? There will be so many air bubbles that you will not understand the end point. That now you need to stop or still continue mixing. So mix very slowly to avoid the air bubbles, and then scrap the sides of your base as well as the bottom so that you have a proper mixture. What if you don't have proper mixture? I'll show you one piece. Let me finish with the mixing. If you don't have a proper mixture, proper measurement, your piece will never dry, even after months. It will remain sticky and bendy, and it will be a wastage basically. Okay, so it's very important that you see, here is one piece. This is a resin piece that I made. Okay, and I specifically added less hardener because this is the question that I get to ask a lot. So I specifically added less hardener to show you what will be the end product. Yes. Okay, so now my mixture has started turning clear again. So I have to mix till it is completely clear. But there has to be a point, Komal, how to take measurements. That's what I told, that I'll be teaching it in the further class. I'll not be able to explain it right now because there's a lot of calculation about what to take, how to measure and everything. Okay, so now my mixture has started turning clear. And how will you be sure? How will you be sure that now I should stop mixing? So you need to observe from top and then move your ice cream stick. And when you move your ice cream stick, if there are no lines formed, that means your mixture is ready to pour. So what do I mean by that is, when you add a drop of oil to your water and you just move your spoon or any ice cream stick, there are swirls or the lines created. If you don't get that kind of line in your liquid, that means your mixture is ready to pour. But if you get such lines when you move your ice cream stick, that means your mixture is still not ready. There are some portion of resin unmixed or hardener unmixed in your cup. So you'll have to mix till that lines completely disappear. Okay, so here my resin is clear again. It has few air bubbles, but it is clear like water again, and there are no lines formed. So now what I'll do is, whenever you start coating or applying resin on your piece, do not place this piece directly on the table. In case if this is not leveled, your resin will start falling and your piece will get stuck to the table. So what I'll be doing is I'll be taking the same acrylic bottles, place it on my table, and then I'll be placing my coaster. So my coaster will be leveled up. Now, in case if it is not level and resin falls, I'll only have the droplets. My piece will be secured. Fine. So let's turn the camera again. Apeksha and bit user, Ayushi will come to that point. Let me just finish one thing. All right. So here I have placed my bottle. Just check that your base has dried out. Yes, it is dry. Okay. So just place it. And as you see here, I have added resin only to the water part so that I get a very good embossed look, like water is going over the sand. So same thing I'll be doing. I'll not be adding my resin to the sand part. So the question will be what to use to cover this. So you can use varnish or you can just leave it like this also because acrylic colors are permanent color. Okay. But still if you want, you can use varnish and coat this sand part. Fine. So now I'll be slowly adding my resin and hardener. See that you do not add lot of resin hardener mixture here. Otherwise, it will start flowing down and it will be a wastage again. So pour some and then spread. So here I'll be spreading it with the stick itself and try to cover each and every edge as well as the corner. See that everything is covered. Otherwise, you will not be able to do that thing. You will not be able to cover that much portion. You'll have to redo the complete thing again. So very slowly see that each and every edge as well as the corner is nicely coated up. Now to just give a natural look, I'll take some resin and just get it over the sand part. Here, all right. See that everything is covered nicely. Now, those who are having blowtorch, they can use blowtorch. And those who are having isopropyl alcohol spray, they can use isopropyl alcohol spray to get rid of the air bubbles that are here on the surface. So I'll be using isopropyl alcohol spray today and I'll just spray it up. So all of my air bubbles just vanishes. All right. So it is all super clear and there are no air bubbles. Now what we have to do is we just have to mix our white pigment in the resin and hardener mixture to create the waves. So I'll be taking this small cup that I'm having, the cap, bottle cap, and I'll take some resin and hardener in it. Because by mistake I had more resin, so I don't want to make complete resin and hardener mixture as white. So I'm taking some resin and hardener in this cup, and to that I'll add my white pigment. Now you can use any company pigment, that is, there is again no restriction, but see that for water part you have a paste pigment, then only you will be getting very good waves. You cannot use powder or the alcohol ink for the white part. Okay, so I'm just taking a very little quantity of my white pigment. Just scoop it up and then just mix it in this. See that your pigment is nicely mixed. Otherwise, you know, your resin hardener will again not dry because pigment is sticky. So you have to see that it is very nicely mixed and you have a proper mixture. Now here I'm mixing vigorously because I don't have to wait for the end point. My resin hardener is already mixed. So I don't have to wait for any kind of end point. So I can mix it vigorously. All right. So I'll just turn the camera. So here you see this white pigment is very liquidy right now. It's very watery. Now I cannot pour right now and create the waves. If I do that, I will be getting only the cloudy effect like this. But I want to have a very good foam effect or the cell effect like this. So I'll be waiting for 5 minutes and till my resin and hardener will be super thick enough like sugar syrup or honey consistency. I'll wait and then I will be adding